Welcome to SAM Conversation, a program of South Asia Monitor. To discuss an important subject, the Siliguri corridor, it is our pleasure to invite Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Director General Infantry, and importantly, Siachen, the first man to jump down on the Siachen Glacier on 13th April 1984 from a helicopter at a height of over 15,000 feet. And thereafter began the Operation Meghdut in the Siachen Glacier. We have had a lot of mention about the Siliguri corridor, which is a stretch of about 60 kilometers in length and 20 to 22 kilometers in width. It's also loosely referred to as the chicken's neck, but I think that should be avoided because there's already a chicken neck in the on the western borders. Anyway, the first time it really came into notice was in 2017 when the Chinese, started doing all kinds of activities around Doklam. And the second time it came to attention was when I have no hesitation in saying the United States deep state. There is one functioning, and it functioned in removing Sheikh Hasina, the head of the Awami League, and installing a dubious character who's been who's also an award winner, an award given to him by the Americans. Anyway, and that is when he talked a lot about we'll make this entire complex of the seven sister states, which can also be called the 8 sister states if you add Sikkim to it. Without going, there's so much more to speak on it, but I will leave that to Lieutenant Sanjay Kulkarni. All yours.
Thank you very much, sir. Absolute a pleasure talking to you. And, something absolutely professional, something in the limelight, something that you've been mentioning all along, that we already have a chicken's corridor. There's no denying the fact. And then why call it a chicken's corridor over here? But like you rightly said, it's the sole narrow lane which connects the entire India with the Northeast, and all the entire 8 states at the narrowest, which it is about 22 odd kilometers. Some say 60 kilometers in length to 22 kilometers. Some are even claimed to be as long as 200 kilometers by about 22 kilometers, and therefore an area of approximately about 12,000 square kilometers is this area, what we call it as a Siliguri corridor, well in local parlance called the chicken's neck. However, rightly said, it's Muhammad Yunus whose arrival made the ISI step in, and they thought that an area which is so narrow, flanked by Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh almost turning then into an East Pakistan, again back to it in its ideological outlook, and also wanting to, they thought that they could well cut off India from the Northeast, which had a population of about 45 million people, and the connectivity of it through, whether it is by train, whether it is by air, whether it is by road, all of it passed to this chicken's corridor. And therefore, it was very, very important that it must be secured. And to add to it, there was a lot more also by the West Bengal government then, which hesitated in handing over land, or hesitated in, trying to put delays in what the government wanted to acquire over there. But the government's promise of wanting a land, which they handed over, the government now of Mr. Adhikari as the Chief Minister of Bengal immediately handed over about 600 acres of land to the BSF, gave 120 acres of land to the central government so that cantonments around in that entire area could be well. And therefore, we have one onto the eastern Lachit cantonment with the Kishanganj. Then you had the Chopra cantonment, which is not very far from there, just about 100, very, very close rather to the Bangladesh border. So all these cantonments which came up, sprung all along it, ensuring that at no point of time would anybody ever succeed in wanting to sabotage or wanting to cut off. China, as you rightly said, sir, about 130 kilometers from there. And surely after the Doklam incident, everybody thought that they could just roll down. It isn't as easy to roll down as most people would want to think. It's quite a distance, 130 kilometers away. But notwithstanding that, there was a population which slowly and steadily came in around with an ideology which wasn't very much suiting the Indian environment at that point of time. And it was this ideology which had to be fought because things written on the wall, the literature being distributed, the people who had then migrated in large numbers from 51 onwards, 71 onwards, but settled here were on paper Indian citizens, but were still, the blood is thicker than this thing. So they were more inclined toward Bangladesh. And ISI, Pakistan took that as an opportunity of exploiting this. With the ISI chief landing over there, whole lot of incidents happening in and around at that point of time. So there was a lot. But then the government decided that it would not only have the cantonments, which also has an Air Force station, which also has, you could say, the S-400, the BrahMos, and all of it. It has a railway line. And now we intend to go an underground and total connectivity through tunnels. So we'll have something which is going through the Siliguri corridor, the entire length, as you rightly said, that is narrow is 22 kilometers, length is 60 kilometers, and all of it passing through it. And therefore, we'll have things overground, we'll have things underground. Fence, the entire fencing which is there, which is about 12 feet high, and then we have drones, we have all kinds of surveillance equipment over there. So all this, that suddenly in about, you can say about less than 2 months of the new government having taken over, a whole lot of activities suddenly have sprung up over there, ensuring that at no point of time the northeastern states are found wanting or get cut off. Not just that, sir. We also had the Kaladan multi-model project, so that the northeastern state is also connected from that end. And therefore, the Kaladan also from Kolkata to Sitwe, that entire distance, that is what they call it the sea route, which was about 539 kilometers. Then you had from Sitwe, you had going to that area, this thing, what they called it, I'm forgetting that name, Paletwa, to Paletwa. And from Paletwa, then there was a land route which touched the Indo-Myanmar border and then into Mizoram and therefore. So there were connectivities being thought of as alternative, but since that also, because of the kind of environment in Myanmar, was taking a little longer time because it has sea, it has inland waterway, then it has a road. So there was but hopefully, I'm told with the Myanmaris also now very much inclined to wanting a peaceful place. They have their head of state now in India at this point of time also. So you find that they have also accepted that by maybe another year's time. So this Kaladan multi-model project, which should have well been done about almost a decade back, has got delayed. But notwithstanding that, this is one connectivity. Then you have this connectivity. Then with the fencing coming up, with the government, the West Bengal government having handed over the land to the BSF to the central government, 120 acres. So we have all of these cantonments in and around with the kind of the military deployment there. So it's an absolutely secured corridor. And as you rightly said, not worth calling it a chicken's neck. In fact, they might get cut off, not we, because we are very well, absolutely well secured, well fortified, and this stretch is very well held. And therefore, those 45 million people of ours, which are in the northeastern states, and the major connectivity with the rest of India, will never ever get compromised nor ever be sabotaged by anybody in under any circumstance. So this is the on the Siliguri corridor that I can share with you, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for whatever you brought out. Very important inputs related to this. While there is no doubt about the kind of build-up, I'll say, very necessarily required and realized well in time that we are, doing on both sides of this corridor. There is absolutely no scope for us to become complacent, because as things stand, the combination of Bangladesh and Pakistan, which has which have come very close to each other, and with a combination of, as I earlier mentioned, the American deep state, in you know in the British had at one stage unleashed missionaries of every denomination in the Northeast to try to, and they succeeded in converting almost all tribes. It's only the Ahoms of Assam and the Maithis of Manipur who resisted becoming, getting converted, and they remained very strong kingdoms. Lachit
That is the
Barphukan
reason why,
threw
sir.
back
That is the
the
reason
Mughals
why
17
Sir
times.
Lakshit.
Lachit Barphukan threw them back 17 times, and
Absolutely.
the Kangli Pak, the Maithei kingdom, they were the last to succumb to the British in 1891, as late as 1891. Anyway, the British left and the Americans took over. Having been posted there for 5 years continuously in an opening Directorate of Ministry of Defence Public Relations cells in Imphal and Guwahati, and having traversed almost all the entire Northeast, one thing I can say is that there has always been a lot of US interest, to put it very mildly. There's been a lot of snooping around done by them, and there's a lot of control attempted to be exercised by the church. I'm not trying to be, I'm not a political person. I'm just a military man like you, who's interested in the in the security of the very concept of India, which unfortunately gets doubted by even some Indians, unfortunately. So we have to make sure that we have known dearth of BRO is concerned. They've made world class roads, bridges, and tunnels, and I'm sure that capability will be very, very relevant and useful here. But I underline again that there is no scope for complacency, and this is something which has to be very sharply observed all time, 24/7.
So if I might just add to what you said, it is because of Lakshit Borphukan, there's a military station named besides, of course, you have taken.
It was very good news. It was very good news to hear, that I authored my second book, which I authored, was Assam, Terrorism and the Demographic Challenge, which was in 2008, and by which time about 9 districts had in 9 districts of Assam the demographic shift had taken place. And in 2005, the then governor of Assam, Lieutenant General S.K. Sinha, he had put up a paper to the President of India that please be aware that at least 5 districts of Assam this, the demographic balance has shifted. Today it's 13 to 14 districts, after which Mr. Himanta Biswa Sarma has come down like a ton of bricks. Very, very good that he has. But all this, we have to be very wary of ensuring that no monkey tricks are succeed here. Anything that you would like to add?
So it is all right. You rightly said that Lakshit Borpakran military station having come up there. We have Kishanganj, Dhubri, Chopra, all of these military stations in and around, and the government, the state government giving the land to the BSF for fencing, state government handing over 120 acres to the central government to establish itself, and therefore there is no question now that at any point of time, where the central has now put its own foot over there and has such a large interest, and therefore the northeastern state, irrespective of whatever might happen, will never ever get cut off. And the 45 million people that we have across will always be that such a thing, and therefore important that the Siliguri corridor remains something which is a sole narrow land bridge with northeast of the rest of India remains secured, safe, and very important, detect and delete and deport. If we have to ensure that any migration that has taken place from the other side, either forcibly or in time manner, it is very important that we must be able to detect, we must be able to delete their names as the process of SIR has started. We have the complete citizenship act in place, and then deport these people, with the West Bengal government now having said that they will be not being sent to jail. Instead, they'll be sent to a place from where they will be sent back to Bangladesh.
Where they can be sent into Bangladesh as soon as possible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely right. And therefore, I think this is an area which all of us can take pride that the government of India has decided to heavily fortify, and no fear whatsoever from any part, from anywhere in the world, can ever anything that can happen to the Siliguri corridor. So,
it must not happen like it did in 71. We prided ourselves on being so correct.
yes,
On 16th of December 1971, we could have hung on, or we could have changed the shape of the boundary between erstwhile East Pakistan and India to suit India, to practically suit us. But no, we were very proper.
Yeah.
We remained very proper.
Yes. I totally agree with you, because otherwise the demographic changes being done, because basically, this is sometimes, I don't know whether I would be right to say, because Islam is a political system in religious clothing, and therefore it becomes very, very difficult to be able to identify or to be able to differentiate, unlike Hinduism, which could be seen as a way of life. And therefore, every one of us are Indians, every one of us are Hindustanis. We don't see ourselves as Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, or Isai. We always see ourselves as Indians, as Hindustanis. And that is very important. Unless you take a religious color, then it becomes difficult.
And mind you, the British took such advantage. Yes. They had to leave in a hurry. Thanks to the Indian Navy, personnel of the British Indian Navy who mutinied, they had to leave in a great hurry. But they still did their bit of, dismembering the country.
Over here.
What I'm saying is that it wasn't just a physical dismembering of the country. It was causing so many political problems which we are facing till date.
The very fact of Lord Curzon's first act of partition of Bengal in 1905, which has led to all happening in this area, where the two Bengals were created, East Bengal and West Bengal. And the East Bengal, which is presently Bangladesh, had Muslims in majority and all Bengali speaking. So there were Bengali speaking Muslims in majority East Bengal. The West Bengal did not have Bengali speaking majority because it had Bihar, it had Orissa, it had Assam, and it had Bengal. So the Bengal that Hindus were there were Hindus, yes, Hindus in majority, but not Bengali speaking Hindus in majority. So there was always that affiliation of the Bengali speaking Hindus with the, you could say, the Muslim Bengalis. So there is that affiliation which the Hindu Bengalis saw it as a language which would bond them. Instead, they took advantage of it. For them, religion bonded, not the language. And to the Hindu Bengali, the language bonded and not the religion. So there was this dichotomy which got exploited. So.
Very well brought out. Very well brought out. I think we've covered a very large number of points. There's, of course, this is a complex situation which demands a lot of research and, without fail, a very sharp, monitoring and defending.
The two things that I must bring to your notice, that the Muslim League was formed in Dhaka, 1906. 1905
yes,
is the Bengal partition. 1906 is the Muslim League formed in Dhaka. And the direct action day, again, if you see, recollect, 14th of August, 1946, resulting in what happened along the partition which occurred in 1947. So this direct action day, Muslim League, Muslim, all these kind of a thing, which you rightly said, the Britishers did what they were best at, divide and rule. And that is what was benefiting them, but definitely did not suit us. And I sincerely hope that people around see whoever we are now in the India that we are, that all of us are Hindustanis, all of us are Indians, and at no point of time it should not be the religion which should divide us. It should, in fact, unite us to say that we all belong, we are all the same blood, irrespective of whatever it may be. Anybody.
And who has shown that better than the Indian Army?
Yes,
who
absolutely.
has shown that better than the Indian Army, the armed forces, where in old regiments, where you have, let's say regiment like very old one, 16th Cavalry, South Indian. You have a mandir, you have a church, and you have a place for the. And otherwise, in mixed units, you have a Sarva Dharma Sthal.
Yes, yes, sir.
And we, I think the world needs to learn from this Indian Army of ours. I'm not trying to sound.
No. So much to learn from the armed forces, because the unity of India is largely because of the armed forces, because they are absolutely apolitical. And we do not believe in any religion. For us, it is Hindustan. For us, it is Bharat. That is the religion, and that is the constitution we all follow, rather than being Hindu, Muslim, Sikhs, or Isais, or anything like that. Nothing bothers.
This was expressed very plainly by two senior journalists. One Indian, Khushwant Singh, and the other British, Mark Tully.
Yes, Mark Tully also, yes.
I mean, in personal interactions with them, interviews and things, they very plainly said, if this country has been kept together, you have to, the Indian Armed Forces, thank for it, and largely. Anyway, Sanjay Kulkarni, thank you very much for your time and your valuable inputs, and more when we meet again. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind.